Time now for the news review on the AM show. Thank you for staying with us. And we get right into it. Of course, it's always brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And they are offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, Spentex opposite the Shell signboard. There's Kumasi, Kronoma Bweha behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takra Dianaji State. There's Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and it's Yamanzama. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. I would also like to start by saluting a woman who many decades ago gave birth to 3 strong boys. Did everything when their father passed, when these children were very little, to bring them up, give them a sound religious background, a sound educational background, to discipline them when necessary, and to ensure that they grew up to become stalwarts in society. One who has sacrificed life and limb for her children, and a shining example of motherhood. My own mother, Susie Akakbo. Today happens to be your birthday, Ma, and I wish you the very best of the day as you hit 69. God bless you. God bestow his many choicest blessings upon you. May you live long, and may you be joyful, happy, and prosperous, physically and spiritually. And that is my mother, Susie Akakbo, whose birthday is today. Let me now get on and introduce my guest, joining me for this morning's newspaper review, in the person of the MPP's parliamentary candidate hopeful for Efija Kwabre South, George Sapong. He is my guest. Mr. Sapong, a very good morning to you. Hello, Mr. Sapong. You may have to unmute so you can hear me, Mr. Sapong, or you can respond to me. Have Mr. Sapong on, so we'll proceed from here, and as and when we do have him, we'll hear from him. You do know that we're having all these conversations in anticipation of the MPP's parliamentary primaries in those constituencies come Saturday the 27th. Well, let's get into the newspapers now. Maybe even before we get there, the Black Stars and coach Houghton being axed, Chris Houghton, together with the rest of the technical team. What do you make of that situation? I'd like you to share with me. And of course, there's some insight into that KPMG report on SML. Of course, Ekufuado has rejected the GRA's request to continue with SML's monitoring amid the probe. What are your thoughts on these matters? Of course, Parliament, some think tanks like Imani Africa, among others, raised questions about the entirety of the SML situation, which bleeds the country anything between 700 and 750 million Ghana cedis yearly. Was it worth it? Is it worth it? Should we continue on that trajectory? You can share your thoughts with me on those 2 points, SML and the latest developments, as well as the Black Stars. Is it the way to go that we sack the entire, technical team and then we're good to go? Is that the situation? Well, you can share your thoughts with me on that, ladies and gentlemen, via our live stream. But let me get now into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Looted Asante relics returning home. And some of the artifacts pictured there on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Mpumpunsuo sword, one of the 2 principal state swords of over 300 years. The ceremonial cap, the Demchemche, a gold necklace, and Sankuo or harp of the 1800s. All of these relics pictured here. You would see that crown with horns, abembeng, and all of these taken away, vestiges of colonialism and what it did to us. You know that in Benin, there would be the Benin bronzes and all of those. So many artifacts looted by the French, by the British, from different parts of Africa. And then there's also the story, coup plot, 6 to die, 3 acquitted. It was pretty interesting yesterday. So 6 persons, including 3 soldiers. Maybe before I get into the story, let me just do the other headlines and then I'll get into that. I'm excited about it. So many women opting for C-section worrying. That's according to the Ghana Health Service. $900 million World Bank support. Government receives first tranche of $300 million. And then on the back page, disappointing rain ends Houghton's Ghana adventure. And so that is that. If you look at the different coaches and how long they've lasted, Chris Houghton, 310 days. Otto Addo, 295 days. Milovan Rajevac, 135 days. Charles Akono, 607 days. Kwesi Appiah, 1,005 days. Wow. And Ghana is one of 6 countries who have axed, 6 African countries who have axed their coaches on the back of the AFCON performances. George Sapon, good morning to you. Can you hear me now?
Good morning, my brother. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Good to have you join the conversation. What is the latest as far as your preparations are concerned for Ifijakwabre South? Briefly.
Well, this morning I'm meeting my electoral area coordinators and I'm meeting my constituency executives and some supporters, polling station executives who are also coming in to support. You know, when it comes to elections, one of the key things is to be able to have the necessary logistics to execute what you say you want to do. So ahead of the 2024 election, I, as a parliamentary candidate, I am donating some motorbikes to the party to help the party's work, especially in the areas that are considered hinterland so far as the constituency is concerned. And then I'm also having my final conversations with my electoral area coordinators and my constituency executives ahead of Saturday's election. So all is on course. We are doing our best to ensure that we bring it home. That's what I would say.
How many motorbikes are you distributing?
15.
15. And what's the value of these motorbikes?
I think that the emphasis is rather.
No, I'm just asking the question. What's the value of the motorbikes put together, all the 15? What's the value?
So if you go to the market, the estimated value of one is between 15,000 and 20,000. That's the estimated value of one.
Okay, so let's do some quick mathematics. 15 by 15. So that's 225,000. Did this come out of your pocket?
I'm a young boy. I like to believe that the good Lord has blessed me, which I believe to be so. And so the necessary resources that we need to execute what is ahead of us, thankfully, we have what we need. And in the event that we also need what we do not have, we have a good network that we can always fall back on.
Okay, so part of this came out of your pocket and part of it from support from your network. That's what you're saying.
As to how you choose to see
no,
it.
I'm not choosing, Mr. Sapong. I asked you a question. You said God has blessed you, and then you said that
yes.
Your network. So I'm just asking you, does it mean it partly came from you and partly from your network?
So what I want to say is that, I mean, in this process, all of us know that elections are financially draining. They are costly. So I have been blessed enough to have a good network that is supportive. So everything that I need to do, my personal commitment comes in, and the support also comes in from my network.
Okay, that's good to hear. Good for those who are going to benefit from this motorbike, these motorbikes. I posed some questions about the Black Stars and then, of course, the sacking of the entire technical team as well, and then the latest on the SML. Do you have any thoughts, or do you want us to go straight into the papers?
Okay, for the Black Stars, I think that they are like are sweet and are pain at the same time when they score. I remember Kudus' first goal in a game. It was beautiful. I literally jumped out of my seat. And then the next moment, you realize that things are not the way it used to be. Ghanaians are passionate about football. Ghanaians are passionate about our blasters, especially. And so everything that we need to do to ensure that they keep winning, it's good for me as a person who is pro-government. I like it when the Black Star win, because when the Black Star wins, there's no pressure on government. You understand? Everybody talks about the victory and everyone is jubilating. And then when we don't, people get back to lambasting government for whatever reasons, So I'm more inclined to the Black Star winning than they losing, especially being a football lover as well. As for the decisions that have been taken, I think that personally, I saw them coming, because if we will speak true to ourselves, Chris Hughton has not been too good at the bench. His substitutions and some of the avoidable technical errors are literally unpardonable. And so I think that the decision is not really in bad taste, especially when majority of Ghanaians who are football lovers appear to subscribe to same. What I would rather say is that we should get to a point where we can have a coach who is doing something long term. So if you realize, if the German team that won the 2014 World Cup, take a look at the 2014 World Cup, the German team that won is a team that had been prepared for some number of years. And so now we are lucky to have a number of young players in the likes of Kudus, Ashimeru, and Coup. Let's have a project and say, for these next 5 years, we are building a certain generation. We no longer have that golden generation in ACN, Muntari, Steven Asari, Steven Apia, and then our brother from Germany, Kelvin Prince Boateng. So we don't have that golden generation anymore. But we can build another golden generation from the what we have in our toolbox now. So maybe we could focus, have another coach, give him a long-term plan, and so we move forward. As for the issues around AFCON, I think Ghanaians are naturally angry, and let's not get them angry at them more. Let's mend our wounds and prepare for the future.
I know you don't want to talk about the SML deal, and that's fine. I have a final bit for you when it comes to... I have a final bit for you when it comes to the Black Stars, though.
Okay.
We keep getting here, so I think we might as well talk about it. Politics in our football. Whenever we get here, the football administrators, very recently, one was bribed, refused the bribe, and all of that. But we know about the politics in our football, and I feel it's not taking us anywhere. People have said that former captains, a certain captain, are MPP, NDC. I wish you politicians could just leave our football alone. All you have to do is provide the resources and let the GFA do its thing. But the GFA is another issue altogether. I feel our football, until we get politics out and until we get the right people there doing the right things, following the guidelines, our codes system, pardon my language, is in the toilet. And we are not doing the right thing. And you politicians are also not helping. I remember, you talk about the fact that it's a bad economic time. We were all hoping, because indeed, when the Black Stars or any of our national teams win, it takes away from our sorrows. And we are all happy. We are ecstatic. At least it distracts us for a period. Can you imagine what would have happened if the Black Stars had won this tournament, for example? People would be very excited. But at the same time, we've seen the current president in the past post something like a poor economy, no this, no that, and no Black Stars trophy, no Black Stars victory. You remember that? So that's why I'm saying, what do you think about politics in our football? Isn't it high time we stood up and said, politicians, enough, stay away from our football. Provide the funding and just stay away. Stay away. What do you think?
Okay, so I may have some thoughts that are in line with yours and others that depart from yours. So as for politics, like we all know, it's like the belt that holds our social fabric together. In the media, there is politics. In the clinics, there is politics. In the church, there is politics. And in political party system, properly so-called, there is politics. You cannot, as it were, take away politics from football. The media has, the football system has its own sorts of politics. What we should rather do is, like you mentioned, try to delineate the football itself from the regular partisan politics, such that We don't tag player A and say player A is MPP. So if he misses a chance, then we say that it is deliberate because at the time the NDC was in power. Those are things that we should desist from, and I think that would be helpful. As for people having interest, even those doing football, the football people, a number of them identify political parties. We've seen MPs who do football, who are NDC. We've seen CEOs who do football, who are MPP. My own big sister, Gift Yawari, who is an MPP person, she's doing football. She's on a GFA. We've seen the former majority leader, the former minority leader, Haruna Ibusu. He does football. He's NDC. So I think that is not bad in itself, but we need to get to the point where we do not wrap our partisan politics around our football. That's what we need to do. And so, like you said, we also need to get in the necessary investments such that everything moves smoothly as it is supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I believe that if we're able to do these things, go back to the beginning. Myself, I played in Coup. I played for Anoche Stars around Swami. And so I understand the importance of youth football development. Because almost every country that have gone on to excel at the international level or at the continental level, you realize that there's some level of investment in their football system right from the very, very younger age. If you look at our players who are doing so well now, a number of them are academy players. Take Kudus, for instance. He's been through the Rise to Dream Academy, and you realize that the way they see the football, their approach, their mentality is entirely different. And so for me, I feel that we can go back to the drawing board and rework what we need to rework and move on. Now, on the SML deal, what I would say is that there has been an audit. It is the duty of the president to receive the audit and act on it. For me, as a party person, our president is the leader of government business and the leader of our party at this point in time because we are in government. It is important that we support our president in whichever decisions that he feels is the best for the country and the party, so far as it does not go against best practices. So for me, all interest parties, I would crave the indulgence of all interest parties that when it comes to evidence, when it comes to things that need to be put on the table for us to know the veracity of the issues, let's put them on the issue and on the table. Let's test all the facts. If indeed SML is wrong, if it is indeed, it is the other way around, so that we can come to a final conclusion where we are able to say that, okay, there was an audit, according to the audit, SML is right. There was an audit, according to the audit, SML is right. I believe that when we do things like that in a transparent manner, anybody who has to be the bigger person and say, oh, this is not happening well and face whatever consequences, people will be okay to do that. So let's not get to the point where it looks like sometimes let's not get to the point where it looks like a dog is being given a bad name just so it could be hanged. And let's not get to that point. Let's deal with the matters on the basis of facts. Let's deal with the matters on the basis of the evidence that is verifiable.
All right.
I believe that
right. Hello, Georgia.
Eventually, the president who is vested with the purse of the state. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I lost you briefly. Go ahead.
Parts of the state. Yeah, I believe that the president who is vested with the parts of the state to make certain decisions for and on behalf of the people will do what is in the interest of the people.
Right.
And that's what I would say on the SM.
All right, thank you. Let's get into the papers. My two quick reactions to what you said. One, people may be political. It doesn't mean that selections should be politicized as well. Someone shouldn't play because the MPP, someone shouldn't play because the NDC, and we must get
Precisely
that out.
so.
And then on SML, my only concern, the parameters KPMG was given may be different from what Parliament is trying to probe and what other entities may want to see. So it doesn't mean if KPMG says this or that, that's the end of it, because it was a strict set of parameters, criteria they are using, which are not necessarily the parameters that some of us media people, for example, not all of them may be what we wanted to see or what we wanted to know about. So that's that. Let's get into the papers. Coup plot, 6 to die, 3 acquitted. So 6 persons, including 3 soldiers, have been sentenced to death by hanging for high treason by the Accra High Court for plotting to overthrow the government in 2019. Donya Kafui, aka Ezo, a blacksmith, and Bright Allen Deborah Ofosu, a fleet manager, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and high treason, while Johannes Zikpi, a civilian employee of the Ghana Armed Forces, was found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason. The three soldiers, Warrant Officer 2 Esther San Dekuine, Lance Corporal Ali Solomon, and Corporal Sylvester Akanpewon, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason. In a unanimous decision yesterday, the three-member panel of the High Court held that the 6 convicts conspired to destabilize the country and take over the government, while 2 of them, Kafui and Deborah Ofosu, took actual steps to operationalize the plot by manufacturing weapons and improvised explosive devices, that is IEDs. The court was presided over by Justice Ifiasewa Asaribotre, with Justices Hafisata Ameloboba and Stephen Opong, all justices of the Court of Appeal, sitting as additional High Court judges. However, 2 senior security officers and another soldier accused of being part of the plot were acquitted and discharged by the 3-member panel of the High Court. They are Colonel Samuel Kojo-Gamili and Assistant Commissioner of Police Dr. Benjamin Agojo. They were found not guilty of abetment to high treason, while Corporal Seidu Abubakar was also found not guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and high treason. I've had my thoughts on these matters for a long time, but the court has delivered its ruling. We'll stick to it, and supposedly bygones will be left to be those bygones. There's also, I'll just do these other stories and then you can come through with your quick reactions. Let's head to page 13. So, looted Asante relics returning home. After 150 years, 39 of the Asante royal regalia and objects looted by British troops during the Third Anglo-Asante War of 1874, popularly known as Sagrenti War or Sir Garnet Wolseley War, are returning to the Asante Hene in Kumasi this year. The first batch of 7 treasures is expected from the Fowler Museum of the University of California, Los Angeles, in February, while the second batch of 32 will arrive from 2 leading cultural institutions in the United Kingdom, the British Museum and the Victoria and Albert Museum, in April. Those from the V&A Museum include a gold peace pipe, 3 cars gold soul washers badges, 7 sections of sheets gold ornament, a silver straining spoon, a pair of silver anklets, a section of sheet gold ornament, and a cars gold soul washers badge. Then, 15 of the returning collections from Britain are from the British Museum, while 17 are from the V&A Museum. The collections, which range from the original sacred Mpomponsuo state sword dating back to 300 years to other ornaments of silver and gold, come under 2 separate agreements. And there are some partnerships that have resulted in this, and the Otumfuo is expected to speak in London on the back of this. The last story I'll do for your reaction: many women opting for C-section worrying, cesarean sections. And the Ghana Health Service has described as quite high the number of women opting for cesarean sections in the country as against the spontaneous vaginal delivery. It said from the 2022 Demographic and Health Survey report released last week, 1 in every 5 women that delivered in the country did so through CS, a figure which it explained was quite high compared to World Health Organization recommendations for the country. It said generally, at the country's population level, a 15% CS rate was acceptable, but that was not the case presently, as the country, per the 2022 GDHS report, had a nationwide cesarean section rate of 21%. That is more than 1 in 5 opting for C-sections. What do you think of this? Because I think also, George, there is a trend, and I've noticed it even among friends that I have. People, there seems to be some caution, concern about the normal vaginal delivery. So a lot of people seem to think, oh, rather than go through all that, some are scared naturally, and they say, look, I'll prefer a C-section. You can also talk about the Asante relics returning home. The BBC story said they were being loaned back. I don't know whether they will go back again, but and then the 6 who are to die by hanging. Any thoughts?
Okay. First, let me touch on the C-section. I think that is rather a growing concern and something that we should all be worried about. But what I would say for starters is that the C-section is not necessarily bad. It is something that is ordinarily recommended medically. So if a woman goes, and one of the conditions that a doctor may recommend a C-section is when a baby is overweight. So for example, if you have a first-time mother who's going to deliver a baby that is more than 3.8 kg, or let's say even 4.1 kg, who is like literally two babies put together, and the mother does not have the right pelvis, every surgeon or doctor is likely to recommend a C-section. But like you are saying now, there is this trend of people voluntarily opting for C-section. There is some myth around it where I have heard people say that the normal vaginal delivery affects some part of the sexuality of a woman. That's what I have heard. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how scientific it is, but that may be feeding into this new trend. So health professionals may want to go in there and speak to people so that they can know the right kind of education to give them to avoid some of these things. Now, on the matters of those who have been given a judgment on those who are to die, those who have been acquitted and all of that, I think these are matters of law. And so once the courts come out to rule, we can only accept them. But in the instance where people do not accept the verdict of the court, our constitution allows for judicial review. They can always explore their constitutional rights in Article 2 by invoking the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in Article 130. And if it pleases the apex courts, I'm sure they may have what they so desire. But if the apex court decides to also affirm the decision of the High Court, then it becomes finality to the matter. So for those who do not agree with the decision of the court, I'm sure appeals are always available and they can explore those options. The other thing I would also say is that on the other matter, which is the artifacts of Ashanti returning home, it's important that we look at it in the proper perspective. I am an Ashanti, and I'm a proud member of the Ashanti Professionals Club as well. And so anything Ashanti, I hold in high esteem, and I give it all the necessary reverence and recognition. This year, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Asante Hino 24822 since he ascended the Golden Stool in 1999. And so it's important that these artifacts, like you rightly put it, that were looted by colonial masters return home. And then it would be a good thing to also, as it were, have a proper plan of getting some reparation and all.
Hello, George.
All of that from the things that we lost in the past.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Go on.
Yes, so it will be a good time to go after some of the things that we lost and ensure that we have some of these very, very rare artifacts, because it's a way of boosting tourism. If we get these artifacts back home and then we get them installed in the right places, we can really get some good returns from our tourism industry. It's one of the areas that we must really boost as a country. If you look at what President Akufo-Addo has done with the year of return, and now even December is Ghana is a destination when it comes to December, it tells you that our tourism potential is really there, and we must go on to harness it and make some massive economic returns from same.
All right. Gilbert Senam Kwablakofi, I see you watching. You just started. Welcome aboard. That is live on our feed on Facebook. I just want to say, though, my aversion to the term you used, colonial masters, we tend to use that a lot. I hear it in government. They were colonizers. They were not mastering anybody. They were not colonial masters. They were colonizers. Colonists. This whole bit about colonial masters, it reinforces the idea of one race being better than another. So I'm just suggesting that.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you on that one.
Right.
I do.
The Ghanaian Times newspaper, attempted coup plot, 6 to hang for treason. ACP Agojo, 2 others freed. We've already looked at that. World Bank approves $300 million for Ghana to promote economic growth. Houghton sacked after Ghana AFCON group stage exit. And GRA targets 146 billion Ghana cedis in 2024. Let me see about this story, and then we can quickly move on. So the World Bank yesterday approved a $300 million facility to support Ghana to help strengthen the country's macroeconomic stability and promote economic growth. The facility under the Development Policy Operation for Ghana, a concessional loan to support the country's budget execution, is a contribution by the World Bank's International Development Association to help Ghana's economic recovery and enhance inclusive growth. This brings to $900 million the amount the IMF and the World Bank approved for Ghana in less than a week to support the country's economic recovery and growth. Of course, not everyone is excited about it. Franklin Kujo of Imani Africa has said the money the IMF and the World Bank are giving, they should monitor its spending, especially in an electoral year with the MPP, because it's like giving whiskey and car keys to young boys. And then Qatar Charity provides Bulenga residents with potable water. What do you make of this? Very quickly, I want us to wrap with the Daily Guide newspaper as well. Any quick thoughts, if any?
Okay, my brother, I think that as for people having opinions, it is normal in our body politics, and for me, I respect everybody's opinion. Franklin Kujo can have his opinions, and what I find disappointing is that the IMF support was not sought in the election year. The IMF support was not sought because there is an election. I'm sure anybody who has paid the necessary attention to these issues knows the reason why the IMF support was sought. It was intended to enhance Ghana's economic recovery post the devastating effect of the combined effect of COVID-19 and Russian-Ukraine war. And so we've come from a place. We spent several months to secure this support way ahead of the election year. So if at this point we have to make it look like we are getting the support because of an election, it's rather unfortunate. But then again, the IMF has its own parameters. It has its own monitoring systems. It has its ways of doing its things. And so the government of Ghana, the NPP-led administration, the Akufo-Addo-led administration, cannot pick IMF support and channel it into political party financing. It can never be done. And so I'm surprised that things like this are coming from people who are revered when it comes to public policy and what have you. So for me, I think that Franklin, our good brother, can do better with some of these comments. It's not helpful and it's not good for the economy. When these things happen, they go a long way to hurt the economy, especially on the international market when it comes to getting the necessary support, getting foreign direct investment. Because in the end, anybody wanting to bring his money home would be thinking of the fact that it's an election year. If I take my money to Ghana, and one of the people who speaks on public policy has said that the government will take it and use it for political party finance.
But will you blame them? Will you blame them when people in government will not even keep their money in the banks? They are telling us to support the economy, keep it in the banks. They themselves are not keeping their money in the banks. Will you blame them?
My brother, I think that let's not run through the issues together. There's this specific issue that we are dealing with. When it comes to issues of someone who has kept his money in the bank, I think it's solely a matter that is before the law, and then the special prosecutor is following it. That is not the reason why we want to say that anybody should just also say things that hurt the economy in the long run.
No, I'm not supporting that. I'm not saying that people should say things, but if people truly believe that, and if there's a reflection, especially from people who are in government, would you say those people are wrong?
What I'm saying is that let's not mix the issues. There's a matter of IMF. Its support is coming in. What is the correlation between the IMF support we are receiving and the issue that the special prosecutor is prosecuting? There is no correlation between the two. One is before the special prosecutor that is being treated as a criminal matter. The other is entirely an economic
I think you're missing. You're completely missing my point.
I'm saying,
it's not about the issue before the OSP. I'm saying the signal. The signal it sends. Optics.
I get your argument. I get your argument. What I am rather saying is that we are at a point where we are trying to enhance our economic recovery, and so the comments that we say, the things that we get onto the international markets should be things that would get us to get in more foreign direct investment. So, for example, if we are talking about the opportunities that are here in Ghana, we would have people come in to explore those opportunities. But if we are rather speculating about unverifiable and things that cannot even happen with the regular procedures, then we are rather sucking away foreign direct investment. If I want to bring my money to Ghana and I find on the news that one of the credible public policy institutions is saying that if IMF's money comes to Ghana, there's a likelihood that the government will take it and use it for political party activities. This is something that will hurt the economy. This is something that will discourage investments in Ghana. And if we have a teaming youth ready out there, ready to get gainful employment, and we are doing all the government can to bring in the necessary resources, get people to come in, establish businesses, and we have some of these comments, it hurts not just the government, it hurts the average Ghanaian as well. So
Right.
that's why I'm saying that we should discourage some of these comments and let's not inflame them. It does not help anybody.
All right, George.
That's all I want to say.
Let's wrap here. I'll give you a little time to maybe send a message to your delegates. But before I get there, the Daily Guide newspaper, Asabi calls for probe into Mills's death. Stephen Asamoah Boateng, a.k.a. Asabi, he is Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. I thought Dr. Samuel Mahama had said two things. One, that the purported family that had gone to see President Akufo-Addo was not a delegation from the family. I don't know what is being said about that. And two, that the autopsy report they had secured as a family had been secured from the AMA, or is it the 37 Military Hospital, and that both these entities have the autopsy report. So I don't know what he means by probe into Mills's death further when there's purportedly an autopsy report. But that's the major story there in the Daily Guide newspaper, because all the other stories we've looked at. And then there's also Hajj season begins. Let me quickly do this, and then let me let you first. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. What is your message to your delegates ahead of the parliamentary primaries, George?
Okay. So on 27th of January, which is just this Saturday, we go to the polls. My message to the delegates is simple. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for competence. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for humility in service. A vote for George Sapon is a vote for a youth mobilizer who can enhance the electoral fortunes of the MPP in the Efija-Kwabre South constituency, which will go on to help the overall electoral tally of the MPP nationally. You know, the Ashanti region is the heart of the MPP. So at this point in time, we need people who can mobilize the votes. We need people who can get us all the votes out there to enhance our electoral fortune, such that by December 7th, by close of polls, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia would break the 8 for us, and we will also increase our parliamentary seats. I am ready to do that. I am willing to do that. I am capable to do that. And I have shown over the years that I have what it takes. I can rise to the occasion. I'm sensitive to the plight of the people. And when it matters most, I'll show up for the party as I've always done. I'm number one on the ballot, and I call on all my delegates who have the power to decide in these matters to endorse me massively, take me to parliament, and I'll serve them with diligence.
George, thank you so much for joining us this morning. George Sapon is the MPP's parliamentary candidate hopeful for Efija-Kwabre South. He is hoping to get the nod from the delegates. Before we go, this message coming through from Linda Doreen Ashong. She says, a happy new year and blessed 85th birthday to Mrs. Christiana Otibo, a.k.a. Mama Chris, from your children, grandchildren, siblings, nieces, and nephews. We love you. And so that is to Mrs. Christiana Otibo. You are 85 today. Then there's also this one coming through from, this one says, happy birthday, Joycelyn J. Boateng of Airport MTTD. On this special day, I celebrate not just an addition of another year in your life, but the incredible person you are. Here's to another year of love, laughter, and creating beautiful memories together. Cheers to you, Sewa. That comes through from our very own Samuel Mbura, sending in that message. And once more, of course, a very happy birthday to my sugar mummy, my mother, Susie Akakpo. You are 69 today. May God bless you infinitely. This segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they are offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches here in Accra. It's Pentex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Chronom Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswe and Siamanzima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. The end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review. Up next, sports.